Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another .NET and AI episode. Yes, this is recorded. I know I'm going to say it today at the beginning because last time we did this, you hit me bad on the comment. But I am doing something else, and this is also a perfect excuse to talk with Aaron. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Hey, Bruno, thanks for having me on.
No, yes, this is amazing. We don't have the chance to to talk and share stuff a lot because we are literally in both sides of the earth.
Yeah,
So recording seems to be one way that we can do this, and also about a super cool topic. And hey, they're going to kill me. I always forget. My name is Bruno. I'm part of the Cloud Advocate .NET team. Aaron is also part of the team. And do you want to introduce yourself? I like to go to the topic, but I am learning that it's important to introduce people to let them space. So please, Aaron, introduce yourself if you want,
sure.
of course.
Yeah, as Bruno said, we're in the same team at Microsoft, so part of the cloud advocacy team over here. I'm based in Sydney, Australia, which is why I have a funny accent, unlike Bruno. And I'm going to make sure that I introduce a lot of U's and S's in the words that I say, rather than Z's and lacks of U's. But I've been doing .NET for the better part of 20 years now, and yeah, like I love it, and I'm having a lot of fun with some of this AI stuff that we've been doing recently.
Yes, and also this is also a cool one because we are going to talk today about, no surprises, Aspire, but a very specific piece of Aspire. I mean, I think that everything that we've been talking here around, even around AI, is hosted, orchestrated, or do with Aspire, which makes sense also because save a lot of time. But today, it's also a time saver if you are working mostly with local models and more. So I don't know. Aaron, do you want to tell the story? How we get here? How we get to where we are today?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, regular viewers of your show will know, the challenge that you've got when working with AI models. Like you've got to spin up cloud-based resources and pick the model there and all that kind of stuff. And that has some problems to it, right? Like you've obviously got to make sure you've got an account where you can set those up in. It's going to cost you a bunch of money. But there's some great tools out there for running things locally. And one of them that I want to talk about today is Ollama. So Ollama, you can pull down all sorts of open source models and then just run them on your own local machine using your own compute resources that you've got there, your GPU or CPU if you're more CPU constrained than GPU constrained, and not have to worry about that kind of outbound internet connection or the cost blowing out because you're doing a prototype and you've accidentally done vectorization of a few thousand records instead of the 10 that you meant to do, and all that kind of stuff. Like you run it locally, it may not be as fast as running it in the cloud because you are running off your own hardware, but it's a good way to prototype and experiment with a bunch of different things, and even try out different models, right? Like some models are going to be better suited for different kinds of applications, so you can do that without having to create a whole bunch of services and then deal with the cost that you can have associated with that.
Yes, and hey, what I really like also about Ollama is that there is a huge community behind Ollama. There is a lot of libraries from Ollama on the community to work in C#, in Python, and more. And they also have a very good connection with people, like an example, Hugging Face. So when a model is super popular in Hugging Face and it's also have the right format, the GZUF or Onyx or whatever, they also bring it to the Ollama library and it's going to be able to publish there. And I really, really like that. I started testing a couple of products last year to do local models. And somehow Ollama is the one that when you try A, B, C, and you get to Ollama, is probably the one that you're going to stop and keep using because it's very, very useful. And I don't know, I remember our mega boss, Patrick, mentioned one time that Ollama today is like Docker 10 years ago. There is a lot of possibilities there. There is a huge community, or maybe more. I don't know. I don't know when Docker started, but there is something very big there that we all want to do. But also, I don't know. There is a connection here between Aspire and Ollama. And what is the glue piece in the middle? What are we missing here?
Well, yeah. So we've talked up how valuable Ollama can be in building out applications, but how do you actually get it running locally and stuff like that? So you can install the binary locally, or you can pull the Docker image and you can run it inside of your Docker environment locally. But then it becomes another service you've got to manage. So if you're building out an application, chances are you're going to have a couple of different things you're working with. You have databases. You might be trying to work towards a more distributed architecture where you've got a couple of services going, and then now you bring in Ollama, so that's like another container that you've got to run, or another like executable you've got to make sure that's installed on the machine, that you've started up, that you're pulling the right images and all that sort of stuff. Like just all this overhead that you end up having to manage just this local development environment. So with Aspire, we can take a more pragmatic approach and more programmatic approach even, where we define our environment that we're working with entirely in code. And then when we launch it, Aspire will make sure that that environment is up and running. We've got our database, we've got our Docker containers running, like we're running Ollama, we're pulling the right kind of model that we're wanting for it and all that sort of stuff, and then making it available to all the services that are inside of the application that we're building.
Yes, and hey, super cool. I'm not an Aspire expert. It took me some time for me to get there, but literally right now, even to do a very simple application that requires a local model, Aspire is the way to go, because it's going to literally save me time on setting up everything, and then I can go back later, press S5, and it's there. And hey, I really, really like it. And do you want me to share your screen so we can start to talk? Because it's Aspire, but then we have also the community toolkit there. So let me add your screen here. And
we've talked, about like, this kind of stuff and how useful it is and whatnot. But like, rather than jumping into a whole bunch of documentation and, kind of like death by PowerPoint, but with markdown files, essentially, let's build something. Let's just jump straight in and try and build something. Yeah. So I've got Visual Studio open here, and I've created a new Aspire starter application. So this has created me an API service. It's created me a web front end. But we've also got an app host, which is where our Aspire application is defined. And then service defaults, which is some things that we can add to an application around that has consistency around things like logging, telemetry gathering, resiliency in API calls, and all that kind of stuff. But where we want to start is with our app host. If I open this up here, you'll see, because I've used the starter kit, it's already scaffolded out a few things. And if you're familiar with .NET applications, you're probably familiar with this builder pattern that we've got here. So this is what we see with like ASP.NET applications, where we create a web application builder. But here we've got a distributed application that we're creating. It's a distributed application builder because we're building something for distributed applications. And then to our builder, we add all the different resources that we're going to want to use inside of that. In this case, we've already got two resources defined, an API project and then our web front end. And we can even notice that our web front end has a reference to our API service. So this is our API backend. It's going to be available. And then we're also going to wait for that one to be ready, because our web front end doesn't work until our backend's up and running. So what this means is that our front end needs to know how to talk to the backend. It needs to know where it's running, the ports that it's on, the IP address, or the internal name that it's been given. We don't have to think about that, because Aspire takes care of all of that translations for us. So, good starting point to build an application. I said, and for a distributed application, this is not an uncommon pattern. Services talking to other services. So let's add Ollama to this and see how we go about that. So I'm going to right click on the app host and come down to add Aspire package. And this is going to bring up the NuGet package manager. And for this, it gives me a filtered view of packages for Aspire. And these are particular hosting packages. So things that I need to host, like things I need to run for my environment to get up and running. So let's search for Ollama, because hopefully we've got one there. We do. I know, because I built most of it. So, and I'm going to install the pre-release, because we've got some new features coming out, hopefully soon, with the community toolkit. So community toolkit is an open source project that I'm managing for extensions to Aspire. So Aspire provides us a bunch of stuff out of the box, integrations with like databases and things like that. But then there's so many other things that we want for applications, such as Ollama. So I'm going to go ahead and install this. And once this runs, let's accept all the license. I totally read all the things that I need to accept there. Yep. So, now that that's available, what I can do is I can say, I want Ollama. I'm going to say var Ollama. And then from the builder, so our distributed application host builder, I can say add Ollama. And then let's call it Ollama. That's a good enough name for this resource. So this is how it's then going to be identified with inside of Aspire. And it's that, like, that's all. Like, I've added Ollama to my project. It's that simple. Like, it's literally one line of code. Now there are other things that we can do to this. So like, by default, it'll be using CPU. But if I wanted to say with GPU support, I could say that I want to use GPUs, and depending on what GPU you have, you can choose between NVIDIA and AMD. I've got defaults to NVIDIA because that's the most common one that people are using, and that's what I've got in my machine.
Hey, that's new. The version that I am running, I am passing the arguments by man. I can't remember. It's something GPU enabled. I can't remember. Yep. But hey, this is cool. We have the GPU support now, and you also support other non-NVIDIA CPU because there are other CPUs there. That's cool. Yeah. That's new for me.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also, like, it's really programmatic in the way that we look at this, right? Like, you can look at this code and be like, oh, I'm clearly adding Ollama and I'm explicitly enabling GPU support. Like, behind the scenes, all it's doing is it's passing some flags to the Docker container when it runs. But having it more explicit and programmatic like this just makes it easier for you to work with. Another thing that we might want is we might want to have we might want to persist the data volume, because this is going to run in a Docker instance, and I want to persist that data volume so I don't have to download the images every single time. So let's just do with data volume, and again, I don't have to know anything about how Ollama is storing that. Like, what is the path that Ollama will want to save? Like, how do I configure a volume inside of Docker? Like, I don't need to know that. I just say with data volume. And the last thing I want to show with this is that we also have support for open web UI. So if you want to just have, like, kind of that ChatGPT style interface, you just want that available to, as another way to play around with the models while you're building out your application. Again, one line of code, add open web UI, and that's then going to also start that one up. Easy,
so
right?
This is kind of a bonus because line 3, 4, 5 is installing Ollama. I will think if we don't do Aspire and more, so you basically install Ollama locally, and if you have GPU, is going to do everything here, there. The Open Web UI is a plus. The Open Web UI is, as you mentioned, is I can't remember. Yes, it's an image that is connected to the Ollama, allows you to load the models more, but this is basically what you are doing instead of installing Ollama. And I really like, because I like one of the things that I really like about Aspire is that you can read what's happening. So I am not a big fan of infrastructure as a code, and YAML, it's too hard for me. I understand C#, and this is easy to understand.
Precisely. And you can imagine, like, if you're new to this project, you clone this repo and you've hit F5, but you haven't had to, other than making sure you've got Docker on your machine, you haven't had to go and install it. But, like, what version of Ollama? I don't know. I'd have to then go figure out what version of Ollama that I need to have installed. But because this is in code and it's relying on those external packages, it's the version that we have that NuGet package pinned on, right? All right. So now we probably let's add some models to our Ollama, because this is just going to start an empty Ollama environment with no models or anything like that. So let's create a chat model. So this time from Ollama, I'm going to say add a model, and let's give it a name of chat. And then what model do we want to use? Something that's not going to be too big to download. I'm not going to be a 100 billion parameter model.
Yes, let's not go for the crazy Nemotron or whatever. But yes, one of the Llama or the Phi are small enough to play with them. Yes.
Yeah, let's go Llama 3.2. That'll be pretty quick to download. I mean, we could even download a secondary model if we wanted. So let's say we want embeddings, and then this time I would say Ollama with add model, and then we say what is it? All LM Mini? No. Oh, what's the really tiny one?
I have it somewhere here. Yes, I know. I always forget.
Yeah. Mini LM. It's something like that. I think it's something. Actually, I know where I can find it. In the community toolkit repo, we actually have a whole bunch of samples that you can also check out this if you're not wanting to have a look at the code that I'm writing here. And then if I come into my app host here, we are. Oh no, this one is not using that one.
It's all dash mini LM. I think it's
all dash
mini
LM. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is how people watching, that we did not we didn't pre-record the demos. This is me frantically trying to remember stuff. Okay, cool. So we've got our models. So we're going to download a chat model. We're going to download an embeddings model. And then what I can next do is I can add those as references to the other resources in my application. So I could say with reference to chat, and then add that as a chat reference to my API service. And then I could also add the embeddings in there if I wanted. And then we could do wait for, because maybe we don't want these to be available until we run the chat and embedding. So we want to wait for those resources to be available. So those models are downloaded. And then once that happens, well, then our application will be up and running. So let's F5 Visual Studio and see what's going to happen. We'll see how well off-the-cuff memory has served us in terms of getting this application pre-written. And we're not actually consuming the models yet, though. All we've done is we're pulling them down and making them available with inside of our application, or our orchestrated application. So orchestration is the terminology we use in Aspire. So our application has been orchestrated by Aspire. Those models and everything should be up and running. Once the build happens, and then we'll even see that with the Aspire dashboard. We can actually watch the downloads of those models. So fingers crossed, these ones are going to be reasonably quick to pull down.
Yes, that's also an interesting part, that you have the data volumes, or you are going to reuse them in the future. But the first time, this is a 3 GB model. The Llama 3.2 is 3 GB. And the other is small, but it's going to take some time to download. So if you're doing this for the first time, you need to wait a little.
Exactly. Okay, so here is our Aspire dashboard. And let me zoom that one in a touch. So now you'll see that, so we're currently starting a bunch of stuff, but we're also waiting on a few things. So the API service, the web front end, and Open Web UI are all waiting on other things that are happening. So we've got our Ollama images being pulled, and I can go over to say that the console logs. I can see what's happening here. We'll see that this service is starting up, and we'll see that I've actually we've just bumped the community toolkit to a new version of the Ollama Docker container. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm also having to pull that container image down. But there we go. Whoops, that's an application that is popping up. No Teams, go away.
Hey, because
Teams
we are
is
recording,
really wanting to be on screen. Yeah,
we are recording, so this is the moment that we can apply the magic of editing. Go to the end, but I want to. Yep. It's nice to see how it's working, and yes. The latest. By the way, I will also advise everyone to keep an eye on the latest version of Ollama, because they are always adding new features. And if you ask what features, so in example, when function calling was available to be used here and there for models, the new version of Ollama, when I can't remember what was, one of the Llama models started to support function calling. Ollama make an upgrade, and they support the function calling, so you can use it. So they're always adding something new. Check the Ollama blog. I don't know which is the latest version on Docker. I always try to get the latest one, but I'm guessing that they should have something new there. As far as I remember, the one that they have in example doesn't support concurrent calls, but I think the desktop one have. So maybe they implemented something there. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, 5.7 is the latest. The RCs are out for 5.8. There's actually a bug in 5.7 that I'm waiting for 5.8 to drop that will fix it, because sometimes it'll throw an error when it's trying to pull models, which then is causing the test to fail in Community Toolkit. But yeah, I thought I had the 5.7 image on my machine, but clearly I don't, because it's currently pulling that in Docker. So this will obviously take a little bit of time. Yeah, like I said, this is where the editing is like snip.
I am going. There it is.
No, we still got a couple of layers. It's
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. This is the moment that I am going to code in the download complete until it finishes, and we will have it there.
Yep.
Because also the Llama 3.2 is small, but it's probably going to also take some time. So it's a 2 GB, so it's going to be small.
Yeah. So the models actually download really quickly. So Ollama itself as a container image is like 4.5 gig. Like, it's crazy how big the Ollama container image is. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's just jump back. Well, once it there we go. Okay, cool.
Oh, no. Okay, we are back, and we see that it's running, it's finished, and now it started to download the models.
Yeah, so you can see these models, and like we start reporting the percentage of the model that's there. So like, they're obviously, because they're different size models, they're going to report percentages at different times to as they all download. But because this application is all managed by Aspire, let's just shrink this back down a little bit. What it's going to do is it's going to provide connection information to these models through to like our API service, so that we can then consume those. So let's leave this to just kind of run in the background and download, and we'll go and have a look at how we would then go about consuming those models inside of our API project, because we haven't done that yet. So let's see if we can do this in Visual Studio while the debugger is still just kind of running in the background. I'm going to collapse some of these windows so we've got a bit more screen real estate to work with. Now, how do we call an Ollama model? Well, there's a very convenient open source project out there called Ollama Sharp, which is a .NET library that wraps around the Ollama endpoints and then exposes them as just method calls that you can call off the Ollama Sharp client. But it also is got support for the Microsoft Extensions AI, so that we can use that, which means that we can then plug it into things like semantic kernel, or you could use an application where you're just consuming the Microsoft Extensions AI's interfaces and swap between, like, local development might be running against Ollama, but deployed into your productions environments, you're going to be running against Azure OpenAI service, for example. So you can just kind of do that swapping locally. So for this, we're going to need to add to the API service. Now for this, we'll come in and go add a, I can't do it at the moment because the debugger is running, but there would be an add Aspire package to that. But we're going to do this from the command line instead, because nothing like living on the edge. So there's my terminal. There it is. There's my terminal. Come on. Just make this a little bit bigger here. And let's periodically check what's happening back with our downloads. No, still going, I think. Oh, no, our downloads are actually finished. Oh, excellent. Now, because I'm running some preview stuff on my machine, that's why we're getting this unhealthy state listed for running. But the resources are running successfully, and it wouldn't actually be it's not actually unhealthy. But this is something that the Aspire dashboard gives us, is we can see the status of our various resources. Like I said, this is unhealthy because of just the preview components I got going. But here with our API service, if I was to click onto this, we'll get information about what's been provided from our Aspire app host into it. we see the endpoints that it's running on. So it's got a HTTP and HTTPS endpoint. We've got all of our environment variables. So we have like our ASP.NET environment and all that sort of stuff that's been set up. But down here, we'll see connection strings. If we have a look at that, we'll see that for chat, we have a connection string. So here is the endpoint for Ollama. And then this is the model. So this is so that when we create our Ollama client, it knows what model to use for that. So when we make requests, we don't have to always be like, use Ollama 3.2, use Ollama 3.2, or use the embeddings model if we're doing an embeddings request. Like it knows about those because those are within inside of it. But let's jump over. Let's actually integrate Ollama Sharp. So I'm going to close this down and show the workflow a bit more smoothly in Visual Studio. So we'll right click on our post and we can add Aspire package support. So an Aspire package. So again, like we did with the hosting integration, this time we're going to have client integrations because this is going into a consumption of a hosting resource. So again, search for Ollama, grab the community toolkit, click on install on that. And this is then going to add the community toolkit Ollama Sharp NuGet package. Realistically, all that NuGet package is doing is it's just wrapping around Ollama Sharp. So we just use the Ollama Sharp NuGet package that project publishes. We just wrap it around so it knows how to connect to our Aspire provided resources here. So I can come into my API and let's go builder, add Ollama. And you can see here there's a bunch of different ways we can do it. We can add the Ollama API client. So that's the native Ollama Sharp API. Or I can add it with the Ollama Sharp chat, Ollama Sharp chat client. So this is then going to expose it using the Microsoft Extensions AI. And you'll see that we can expose that as either a chat client or an embedding client, depending on which one we want to use. So for this, we're going to say, what is the name of the connection? So the resource in our app host, this is our chat resource. And then I could also say builder, add embedding. And look at that, Copilot has figured out almost.
Almost, yes. There is something there
because it's Ollama because it's an embedding generator, not an embedding client. So that's just some naming differences that we've got just to be more explicit about what those are doing. So, but there we go. Now we have these registered in the dependency injection container inside of our application, which means that I could come down here and say app.map get, say chat, and we'll make this async. It's an async function. I'm going to I chat client from Microsoft Extensions AI. Whoops. I was too aggressive. Chat client. There we go. Copilot, done. Let's just add my namespace. Any minute now. That's going to take a minute. So let's just type it out using Microsoft Extensions AI. And I realized I probably should have gone.
Yes, we need some query.
Chat equals, we do chat. There we go. Okay. Provide our chat thing there. So then we're going to go string chat. So this is going to be the message that's sent by the user. Actually, let's do it. Let's do it like that. Do it that way instead. Okay. So now we have our Microsoft Extensions AI package library to be used. So I can say our chat client. We can then do. Let's just do it as a complete async from chat, and then we're going to results will await on that, rather than deal with streaming and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get the result, and then we'll just return the result. It's like a breakpoint in there. Relaunch our application, and fingers crossed, everything is just going to work. And if it doesn't, we'll fix it in editing. All right. All right, here we go. We're back in our Aspire dashboard. Now you'll see that Ollama and the models like came up and running really quickly, and that's because I'd previously downloaded them, and because we were persisting that Docker volume, we didn't have to wait for that to download. So let's just pop this open. So there's that was the existing endpoint that was there. Just generate weather forecast. If you've ever seen a .NET sample application, it's always going to generate weather for you. So let's go chat and say, why is the sky blue? And let's submit that across. And you'll see we've hit our endpoint. We've got our chat client. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. This is our chat client that we've got back from our Ollama service. If we have a look at this here, we can expand that out, and you'll see that there is our endpoint. It's at localhost 63022. I'm going to assume that's right because it's generated a unique port number every single time that container is run. Inside of the config, you'll see that it's set the model as Llama 3.2 because, again, that's the model that we said we wanted to use in our app host. Cool. And then we should be able to just run that through to a chat completion. That's then going to call Ollama on my Docker container that is running. We can even see that here if I come into the Aspire app host. The Aspire dashboard. I can come into the console logs here. We'll see that here's all the information that's coming back from Ollama. So there we go. It's received our request to API/chat. So it's going to be processing that, sent back a response. And there we go. There was our JSON response that we got back, and I'm going to believe it that that's exactly why the sky is blue.
Hey, scattering! I didn't even know about that. But hey, fun. Another thing to mention here is that the first time that you call a model in Ollama is going to take some time because you need to load the model in memory, kind of warm up, and then start. But if you ask another question, this should be faster. But literally, I think we spend more time waiting for downloading the images and more than writing code. It's amazing.
Yeah. Like it took more time to download everything than it took to actually get to the point where we've built our own application where we can start consuming a locally running model. Like we haven't had to spin up any cloud resources or anything like that. The only time we needed to be online was just to download some Docker containers. And yeah, then we've also got our Open Web UI as well. If you wanted to jump into here and play around with that, and we'll see that there are the two models that we have, our mini LM and our Llama 3. So again, like this is just another thing that you could use. You want to I just want a quick prototyping of like how does the thing respond to prompts just as the raw text. Then I can integrate that into my application and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Hey, this is super cool. And I've been using this also for a while. And in example, as you mentioned, these are local models. So of course you don't have the power of a O3 big head or whatever is the name of the big guns that we have in the cloud right now. But the local models are very good. 5.4 is a very good model. Llama 3.2 Vision, it's an amazing model to do local image analysis and more. You can do a lot of things, and literally with 10 lines of code, you can define in C#. What I like about this is you can define in C# everything that you need there, and then consuming it super easy and super fast, as you show here, which is super cool.
Yeah, like it's very obvious and explicit about what's happening. You can have as many models as you want. So yeah, you could bring in a vision model as well if you want. Something that's multi-model. We've got our embeddings generated here, so I could be doing embeddings. I could then also, inside of my Aspire application, I could add Postgres as a database if I wanted to use, say, PG Vector in there, or I could use Quadrant or like a dedicated embeddings database. And again, just explicitly write this out inside of our app host, provide those as references, and then our application just consumes them.
Super, super cool. Let me show one of the samples that we have. an example is someone, and we one of the session that we did last year was a friend, an MVP, who created a super cool project that basically analyzed cameras, CCTV cameras, traffic cameras, and then using GPT-4o, and then he can know how is the traffic in the specific areas of an island. And when I saw this, when I saw the toolkit, when I saw Ollama and more, I started to play around to see, hey, maybe I can do this, but using local models. And I get to this point. Let me share my screen. And I get to this point, and I haven't run this in a while, but you will get an idea that it's super powerful. And you are going to see that I'm old school also here. Let me share my screen. So this is my app host, and I was using all the school parameters to enable GPUs. I need to update my Ollama toolkit and more. And like you here, I'm using Al Mini LM because there is an implementation when you can ask, hey, how is the traffic here and there? So there is some semantic search and stuff. And you can, and I also doing here Llama 3.2 vision to analyze this. But the whole idea of this, and this is a long project with a lot of services, is doing a couple of things, is that we have this amazing dashboard where you can see that the models are running and more. And somewhere here, you can start to see the cameras. And what we see here, this information here, is going to start to refresh, is the local analysis of the traffic using Llama 3.2, Llama 3.2 vision. So if I go here to Ollama vision, if I go here to the logs, at any moment it will start to load this. Loading here, loading the GPU. Of course, this is going to take a couple of seconds to analyze this, but let me go to the vector worker, one of the services, the AI services. It's sure the one that is going to start to get this info, analyze an image of a camera and get the title, the date, and the traffic. 0, no traffic. 100, it's full traffic. So if I go back here and start to see the cameras, by the way, there are a lot of cameras. Let me add another one. And this is also in Tenerife, which right now it's, I don't know, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. So there should be no traffic at all. When we start to refresh the cameras and more, it's going to do everything. But this is all running locally. And literally to change the way that it works, it was just going to the initial set of models, use the community toolkits with Ollama to load my models, and then start to change. Instead of using GPT-4o, I use Llama 3.2 vision, and I was trying with 5, and 5.4 is going to have some other stuff. It's super useful, and it really helped to prototype, to learn, and more. Let's see if it starts to refresh the cameras. Values, not yet. At any moment, it's still loading the whole set of cameras, so I'm guessing that it's still getting the names of some cameras here, but we should get info from all of them. And hey, this is the source info that we have for the cameras. So name of the camera on top, date and time, and the whole scenario here. And there is a prompt somewhere there that said to Llama 3.2 vision that, hey, analyze the camera. And by the way, 6, no, this is wrong. It can be 6 p.m. there. There is something wrong with the cameras, with the website, with the cameras. It's probably broken. It's not 6 p.m. It's later in the night for Spain. But it's a nice idea to have. And hey, I really appreciate that I can literally do this with Ollama, the toolkit, in a very fast way. Now I understand why it's not refreshing. The cameras are stuck. But hey, it's also open source. In the resources and everything that we have here in the session, we are going to share all of these links. And this is a nice and interesting one if someone wants to give it a try and try something that it works. And hey, anything else that you want to mention? Any plans that you have for the future for the toolkit and Ollama and more?
The only other thing I was going to say is if people want to like learn more about the community toolkit, you can check us out on GitHub, github.com/community-toolkit/Aspire. We've talked obviously about this from the perspective of I'm doing AI-centric development, but we have so many packages on here. I think we've got over 20 NuGet packages now.
Yes.
Everything from databases to supporting other runtimes like Bun, Rust, event stores, and message queuing. Recently just added some support for, or it's in preview, but support for SQLite if you want to use that as your database. And yeah, you can see there's plenty. And this is actually one that landed just the other day, which is feature flag support. So there's a thing out there called Go Feature Flags, and you can run that. So you can just run locally to build an application that's got feature flag support, and then deploy that as a container or use the service for feature flag, which is really kind of cool. So yeah, mate, check us out on NuGet if you want to learn more, jump in and contribute and that kind of stuff. But that's probably all I've got for today.
Yes, and I am going to say also that you have the Meli search there. That's on my to-do list to learn more. And I need to give it a try. I need to spend some time. So
yep,
I think we can call this a wrap. Thanks a lot, Aaron. It's a pleasure. Thanks to everyone who are here. I was probably asking someone to help us with the comments. So if you have question more, it's going to be there in the comment. And hey, once again, thanks a lot, Aaron. See you next one.
See you next time.